is now considering an abortion bill that might actually be worse than the one that was just passed in New York. Now, this bill in Virginia is actually pushing to legalize infanticide. I'll tell you the disgusting details coming up. And former NBC newsman Tom Brokaw was forced to apologize after suggesting that Hispanic immigrants should assimilate into their new country. Now, forget political correctness for a moment. Was Tom Brokaw actually right? Well, he's been forced to walk it back by the PC police. And we're going to talk about what he actually said coming up. And lastly, former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz has floated a possible run for president. And Democrats have been melting down ever since, calling for a boycott of Starbucks, which happens to be an extremely leftist company. To begin with, it's been helping them for years. So will the left destroy one of their own? The Ferguson File starts right now. Before we get into the details of this new Virginia abortion bill that the governor so callously supports, let me just remind you what's happening with these babies before they're even born. Just 18 days after conception, a baby's heart begins to beat. At 42 days, the baby's brain waves are clearly detected. At 52 days, babies begin to actually hiccup and even yawn. Now, at 8 weeks, all of a baby's organs are fully functioning. At 9 weeks, the baby has distinct and unique fingerprints that actually set them apart from anyone else in the world. At 10 weeks, and this one is extremely important because Democrats always talk about the possibility of pain and suffering when it comes to things like lethal injection. Well, a baby can feel pain at 10 weeks. And I just wonder why Democrats aren't defending them the same way they defend mass murderers and their feelings when they are up on death row. Now, at 12 weeks, a baby can actually be seen on an ultrasound smiling. Having a child and struggling to have a child, for several years, it was honestly one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, remember, Democrats claim to be the party of science, but they say this somehow still isn't actually a human life. Instead, they use medical terminology to try to disconnect us emotionally from innocent children being murdered. They use terms like fetus or clump of cells or even a product of conception. Now, it is very clear that the reason they changed the word baby or child to these other terms is because they are afraid they will lose the ability to murder if they treat it as an actual living human being or a child. They've been forced to change their terminology because even they know it's an actual human being. Now, let's talk about this particular bill in Virginia, which repeals protections for innocent babies who cannot defend themselves. This bill repeals mandatory ultrasounds. It repeals mandatory 24-hour delay before murdering a child, or as they like to call it, terminating a pregnancy. Now, this bill also repeals the requirement that second trimester abortions are performed in a licensed hospital. This bill also repeals the requirement that 2 additional doctors need to sign off on any third trimester abortion. Now, you may ask, why did they get rid of that? It's simple, because they know it's extremely hard to find multiple doctors to agree to murdering a child at this point in anyone's pregnancy. What's scary is that everything is just listed, that I just listed for you, is not even the most disturbing part of this legislation. Virginia delegate Kathy Tran answered questions about the bill this week, which would repeal the current protections for an unborn child. Just take a look at this video and you tell me if you think what you're about to see is anywhere close to what we should be having in America.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, that she has physical signs of that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman
I
would make
understand
at
that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Now, I want you to think about what you just saw. They want a woman to be able to abort a baby as it's being born due to reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with the health of the mother or the child, who at this point is clearly a human being, who can clearly survive outside of the mother's womb. Now remember, this is the same group of liberals who oppose lethal injection because it, quote, might cause discomfort to a death row inmate. But they are now advocating for it for a newborn child who is living and breathing the same air that we are. Now, let's talk about the new reasons they are using to justify the killing of a child. At this point, even by their own standards, this is not an abortion. This is murder outside the womb. A woman can now claim in this law that they're proposing anxiety or depression without even disclosing this medical condition before the moment she wants to terminate or kill the child outside the womb. The doctor would not have to have any psychological training to make this decision about the mother's mental health either. They can just kill a viable baby as it is born. Let's be honest, postpartum depression is a real thing. Any doctor knows that this will usually go away when a woman's hormones returns to pre-pregnancy levels. Yet now they're allowing for this temporary condition, which is a side effect of having a child, to be justification for murdering that child. What's even more disgusting is that the mother is going to have to deliver the baby anyway at this point in the pregnancy. So why not demand that the child be delivered alive instead of them killing it? Now, as I said earlier, what I just told you isn't even the worst part of the bill in Virginia. Yes, it actually gets worse. And I hope every one of you will share this video with all of your friends so that we can protect these children. Now, after Virginia delegate Kathy Tran proposed her bill, Virginia's Democratic Governor Ralph Northam went on WTOP radio to answer some questions about this legislation. Now, let me let you know that this governor is not just a politician. He's actually a doctor, a pediatric neurologist, which makes his response even more disturbing. Now, I'm going to warn you that what you're going to watch is incredibly disgusting. And it's hard to listen to a governor who's a doctor actually treat children this way. Take a look.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
I know Governor Northam, who's a doctor, knows the meaning of the word abort. And he knows that this is something that would clearly fall outside of that definition. At this point, he's talking about literal infanticide. He is talking about babies who have already been born that you are now choosing to kill by refusing care or just leaving them on a table to die when there are doctors right there in the room who can clearly care for these children. Whatever happened to the first part of the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm. And the left loves to call Trump and his supporters Nazis. But we aren't the ones pushing for eugenics, a Nazi agenda item. We aren't the ones suggesting that innocent, viable babies be put to death because they might be imperfect in their eyes or an inconvenience to their mother. Just weeks ago, Democrats lectured us about the supposed inhumanity of having illegal alien parents temporarily separated from their children at the border. And I never want to hear a Democrat complain about the death penalty ever again. Lethal injections are illegal in New York for convicted murderers, but murdering babies somehow is legal. This is eugenics. This is infanticide. This is murder. This is absolute genocide, the same way that Hitler and the Nazis did it. It's called evil. This is exactly what we actually tried to stop in World War II with Adolf Hitler, and now Democrats are bringing it back in America and legalizing it. All I can say is there's a special place in hell for anyone who votes for, supports, or celebrates this legislation. And if you agree with me, please share this with your friends, because it's time for us to fight for these children who cannot defend themselves.